everybody. Welcome to Bestie Book Reviews. I'm here with the bestie Mandy.
And I'm here with the lovely Jessica, my bestie.
Oh, no, we can keep that. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So today's video is about underhyped books and authors that we want to showcase for you guys. So these are books that need so much more love, but we love them. So we hope you love them. So let's talk about these books.
But hey, speaking of some books that need more hype, that would be Calla Reed's books. So you can win all of these books right here by just subscribing to our channel. We're doing our Road to 2K giveaway, and we have a pit stop at 1,500, which will be us giving away these books. All you have to do is hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Instagram for an extra entry.
Yep.
And in those comments, tell us what are some books that we didn't talk about that you feel need more hype. We actually already have our list for like our next video for books that need more hype, but we, as you know, love to promote books that need more hype on our channel and authors. So
yeah,
tell us that in the comments.
There was choosing the books for this video was really hard because our list is so long and we have so many authors that we love and adore their books, and it was hard. It was really hard, but I think we have some good ones.
So for this video, let's talk about what criteria we used for books that need more hype.
Okay, so we chose ratings off of Goodreads. That was the big one, right? How many ratings?
Yes.
Goodreads. I think everything is below 5,000.
I think 4,000. 4,000 ratings.
I have one that's 5,000, but that's...
Oh, okay.
But because the last video we did, which we'll link the other video as well, we did below 7,000. And so that was my criteria. I have one that's at 5,000. Everything else is below 4. Actually, probably below 3 for me. I even have some that are in the 100 digits. So yeah.
I have one that is, and the rest are somewhere around 1,000 to 3,000 at the time of preparing this video. But hopefully that's going to bump up when we bring them to your attention.
I do love when I go to Goodreads to look at this and I'm like, I wonder who's read it. And I see that some of you guys who follow us on Goodreads have read it. And I'm like, oh, I've done my job. Okay. So, yep. Sorry,
all right.
Dog tushing away and he's moving the camera. Hey, Sammy, come here. Go, move. That way. Go that way.
Let's get to it.
So what is your first book? Oh, not ready, huh?
I wasn't prepared to be first.
I'm always first.
I know.
I can go first since that's throwing you off there.
Please.
Okay. All right. So the first book that I've talked about a few times. We're gonna meet this author in Seattle in September. This series and another series, her Magnet is the first book. It's her. Oh my God. Lawyer. What is it called? What is it called? Hold on. What
are you talking about?
Yeah, I know. Acquisition. This series and her Acquisition series definitely need more love, but this is the one out of the two. Don't laugh at me. I couldn't think of the right word. This is the one out of the two.
I have no idea what you're talking about. You're like, I know.
Because I've talked to you about it before.
You know that I have no idea what you're talking about. How am I supposed to help you? Why are you asking me?
I don't know. Anyhow, let's talk about this one. This one is out of the two, this has got the least amount of ratings. So this has actually under 3,000, or is it 3,000? It's 2,000. This has 2,000 ratings. And so this is the Cloister series by Celia Aaron. I know there's several of us that look for books that take place in a cult setting, and that is what this is. I love that. This is dark, and it's just so good. It is a trilogy, like I said.
Also known as Jessica.
Hey, I like it when they're in a cult, and I'm looking for these. Like, this is like the ultimate one. This was like what started the whole problem for me with finding books where they're in a cult. So this is about Delilah. Now, a year before this book starts, her sister joins this group, this cult, and her sister died not too long after that. And so Delilah wants to find out what happened to her sister. So she decides to join this cult and become a maiden, which is what her sister was going for. and be a part of this group. So she wants to infiltrate it. So in order to be a maiden, you have to be a virgin, you have to do all these things, and then you become this maiden. And the maidens, once they go through all of their weird training that she has to go through on page, then you're given to one of the elders in the church to be their wife. But before you're done before they do that, you are given to one of the, like, almost like deacons or whatever in the church, so just below the prophet, as a keeper. And that is where she meets Adam. He is the prophet's son, and he is her shepherd, I think is what they call him. And he is to watch over her. He can use her in any way he wants, as long as her virginity stays intact. And so that is where we start this book out. I love it so much. The series is like addictive. I was pulling out books for this going, oh, I want to reread that. So
I think I shrunk down somehow.
That's okay. They tell us that happens as we get older. Is it because you just had a birthday?
Hey, you will always be older than me.
I will, by that whole 2.5 months.
When we turn, the year we turn 50,
I
that
don't even
2.5 months is going to be glorious. Or even next year. Next year, because you will be officially in your mid-40s.
I do not want to talk about it.
And I will just be like, I'm still in my early 40s. All
right, what's your next book? What's your book? What's your first book? I don't want to talk about it.
Aging Gracefully. That's my next book.
Oh, really? Okay.
No, it's my first book, okay?
Your first book,
So
yes.
my first book is the Quarterback series, which is part of Vegas Aces by Lisa Suzanne.
Okay.
So if you're familiar with her format, most of her books come in like 5-book series, and they're usually pretty short, like around 200 pages. So it's kind of like reading a really big book. So when I say 5 books, I don't want you to be intimidated. And they follow the same couple. So in this series, we have Jack and Kate. We have Jack, he's the famous quarterback, and Kate meets him at a party. She's dressed up as a cat. It's a Halloween party. So this is how they meet. And there is a very compromising picture taken of the two of them, which becomes a viral meme. But we're going to back up when that picture is taken. Jack is told he has to go because his pregnant girlfriend is downstairs waiting for him. So Kat is like devastated because she felt like there was this like instant connection between the two of them. And then she finds out he's just a slime ball with a pregnant girlfriend there. Like, what? So we fast forward a little bit, and the owner of the team hires Kate to babysit Jack, because Jack, and yes, I'm still talking about the adult man, Jack is kind of spiraling out of control, and they need to clean up his image and keep him on the straight and narrow. So she is hired to babysit him, basically, and get him on the straight and narrow. I really enjoyed this series. If you like football and you're stressed out because it's not football season right, oh. I was switching at the same time as you. That's funny. Okay. So if you are like me and you are freaking out that there's no football right now, you can go read this series.
Okay.
But it's definitely one that needs more hype. You don't really see, if you're in her like Instagram stuff, obviously you'll see her stuff, but I don't really see anybody else ever talking about it. So yeah, let's hype it up, people.
All right. Speaking of hyping it up, I've got another one that needs to be hyped up. They all need to be hyped up, but you know. This next book that I have, I've told you to read. I know it's on your list of books to read, but it only has 87 ratings on Goodreads. Just 87. And it is one of my favorite books. So this is a part of a trilogy. This is the second book that can be read as standalones. So this is Wildling by Lynn Burke. So this is about Annie, who lives in a smaller community in Alaska, and it's where all the guys from the bush in that local area come in and get their supplies a couple times a year. And so that is where she meets a man. She's met him before, but and they went like on a date or whatever. She has a pretty terrible home life, and she just wants to get away. And so when he comes in, this next time, he's like, "I'm here for the day. Like, I'm here. This is it. And I want to marry you, and I want to take you back to my homestead." And she agrees to do that to get away. She doesn't know this guy at all. And so she marries him. They have to take a float plane to get in and out of the homestead in the bush. And there's no way to, like, you're there. Like, you don't leave, you're there. It's very remote. And so when she gets out there, she meets his son, Roan, who is like a year younger than her, whatever, but he's been raised in the Alaskan bush. And so he is a wild boy, which is why it's Wildling. And once she gets out there, she realizes that she made a mistake. This man that she married is very abusive towards her, and he's very cruel towards her and to his son. And that is where they develop a bond and they develop a relationship. And it is so good. I love it so much. You definitely have to check your triggers because it is dark. But I don't understand why it only has 84. I don't get it. It's a 4.33. But it only has 84. Go read it. Just make me happy. Go read it. It's really good. I like the whole trilogy, but that's my favorite. Okay, what have you got next?
Okay. I don't even know how to transition. I'm a little scared that I haven't read it yet. Like, you're pretty worked up about this.
You know, if there was audio for it, obviously she's not going to come out with audio for a book that only has 87 ratings, but if there was audio for it, we could listen to it on our road trip to Canada this summer.
I could read it to us.
I love it. Will you do the voices?
All right. Next book is The Fall Before Flight by L.M. Holleran. And I just have to say this was like my favorite read in January. It's going to go down as a favorite for the year. So people, get on board here and read this. So this is Doctor Patient. So we have Amelia, who is in I'm going to set my book down, accident of some sort. And she has to go to basically like this fancier asylum inpatient place for people who are having some mental issues. And it's described though, it's like a pretty swanky type place to be though. So she goes there, like she has her own private living quarters in here and all of that. And this is where she meets Leo, who's the doctor. And her twin brother is who brings her here to Oasis, is what it's called. And Leo has her information on why she's there, but she's still not 100% sure what exactly has happened, because she's adamant that nothing, she doesn't need to be here. She's just been kind of reckless with her life, I guess we could say it. So Dr. Leo is working with her, and things start to very slowly happen. This is definitely a slow burn, but it doesn't feel like a slow burn. The development between Leo and Amelia, the pacing is just perfect, because I love that taboo, forbidden, relationships. But sometimes we don't always see that relationship build. And so you kind of have to make this leap of faith that these people really like each other. But here we see that relationship build, and it is so good. So definitely do yourself a favor and go read this book that needs more hype.
Okay.
Do it. We're going to get aggressive on this.
Apparently so.
I'm joking.
Yeah, no. Okay. So the next book I have is one that I read last year that I also really loved. And it's got less than 300 ratings. So it needs the love. And that is Time Out by Layla Simon. This I read for our prison trope video that we did. And I fell in love with it. So this is about Nadia, who is a mom she's in her 40s, very early 40s. She has a son who's done some stupid stuff, and he has got himself thrown into prison. This takes place in New Zealand. So Nadia is going to visit her son in prison. She was contacted by some guys that had told her that if she doesn't smuggle some drugs into the prison, that they're going to kill her son. So she has the drugs inside of her, and she's getting headed to the prison, and she's thinking about if this baggie pops open, I'm dead, that kind of a thing. As she gets closer to the prison, there is a prison break, and she is caught, grabbed and held captive and taken on the road with Kai. That's the guy who escapes prison. He takes her with him, He's younger than her, and he's done some stupid stuff, but they're on the lam together. And so this is like their story of them going out doing the thing. He has to get the drugs out of her. It's a thing. I loved this book so much, and I know I'm not doing it justice, but it is so good. And I loved the whole, I'm not one for reverse age gaps. This worked for me. Like, it worked for me. Oh man. So it's definitely darker. Check your triggers, but it is so good. So what is your next book?
Okay, my next book is Ranger by Katie Ray.
Mm-hmm. This is a good one. Listen to her, people.
Thank you. You've read this one, obviously. That was my starting line, and I, like, when you said that, I couldn't, like, think of how to process. So this one is under 300, and I don't know why. It's a great book, very different than a lot of the other books I read. And so when we say something is very different, like, really take that to heart, because we both read a lot of books. So if something feels very different for us, it is definitely out of the norm. So Ranger, we have Ranger who is on a mission with the military. He's been dropped out in basically the middle of nowhere, and this is a training task for him, and he has to make his way out, and he has very little supplies, and he's on a timeline to complete this mission. We have Olivia, who lives kind of, it sounds like a little bit like out in the country a little bit, and she has been and like how do I describe this? Like, horrifically abused, basically, like really beaten down, and she's terrified that her abuser is coming back, and she hears a car on the driveway, and she decides that she has to run, and she's not prepared for this. She just takes off running out into the woods. Okay, and she just runs and runs and runs, and this is where eventually she runs into Ranger, and Ranger is faced with like this frail woman out in the middle of nowhere who's terrified. And, you know, he's going to do the right thing. He's not going to just leave her out there. But this kind of screws up his timeline. And that's where I'm going to leave you with this story. It's really good. Go read it.
Mm-hmm.
Go read it.
Go read it. Okay. So my next one is probably the most popular on my list, but it still obviously needs more hype. And that is
A Court of Thorns and Roses.
What'd you say? A Court of Thorns and Roses? No, this is better. Although, guys, I don't know if it is right now. Well, it is. All of the ACOTAR books are on Audible under the membership to download for free. You don't buy them, but you get to keep them as long as they're in that is it the premium? Is that what it is? Where they're
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how long they'll be there for a month or two. They should be at least. So go download them, listen to them if you haven't, because they're really, really good. Like, it makes you want to do it again.
I have always found that Audible's really good about putting a little date by it, available until, when you put those in your, like, add them to your library, it says that, so you can
especially if it's getting close to the time that they're going to take them back out. But for right now, they're there. Honeysuckle by January Rain. Now, I think anything by January Rain needs more hype. I think she's great. She writes paranormal, and that is what this is. It's not a very long one, but it is so good. So this is about Demi and Creed. So Creed has been kidnapped, and he's been kept in this facility by a bunch of scientists, and he's human, but they've decided to splice him with some monster DNA and just see what happens. And what happens is pretty friggin' crazy, because he gets several different types of monster DNA in his system that actually take. And he ends up escaping the facility and ending up in the small town in the area. And that's where he smells his mate. His mate is Demi. She runs her family's diner, like a 50s style diner, which is so cute. And he is just smitten with her from the minute he sees her. He knows that she's his mate. That is the one. And Demi sees him, he wears like a hooded sweatshirt, and his skin is gray, so he doesn't let people see him. But when she smells him, sees him, is near him, like, there's just something about him that attracts her, like, instantly. It's definitely an instant connection for them. And oh, things just go from there. She doesn't actually really get to see him for quite a while afterwards, but he waits till she's asleep to do certain things, or he might drug her to do certain things. So definitely check triggers, but it is paranormal. I love it. See the tentacles? There's a reason for them. So friggin' good. It just needs so much more hype. It really does. It needs so much more love. Okay, so what's your next book?
All right, my next book is Who's Your Daddy by Lauren Rowe. And I just want to point out, Who's Your Daddy? Like, it makes the book sound like it's going to be more corny, I guess, than it really is. It's actually really, really good. And there's really not a lot of daddy references. So I just wanted to point that out. Like, I don't want somebody to shy away from it because of that. So we have Marne and Max. Marne and Max meet through some friends and they're instantly attracted to each other. Marne is older than Max. Max is in his 20s. He's a lawyer and he is working to make partner. And so that's all he does is he just works. So he's in his late 20s. Marnie's like in her later 30s. Marne is a single mom and she's just kind of led a very carefree life, but now she's extremely devoted to her little girl. And she's looking to eventually settle down, but she's just coming off this heartbreak. She was with this guy for a while, and then she found out he was married, and she like married and like supposedly still happily married, not like separated or anything like that. So she's devastated. So she doesn't want to have a committed relationship right now, but eventually she does. So kind of like a rebound thing for her. And Max obviously has no time for this. And so they agree that they're just going to hook up and that's that. Well, they hook up and things go pretty well between them. And the next morning, they've already made plans to go have breakfast and possibly meet later for dinner. Max is finishing getting ready for them to go out to breakfast. And Marnie's just kind of hanging out in the living room looking at some pictures. And what do you know? Max's dad is Marnie's ex that she just broke up with because he's married. Now he's like on his third marriage, not to Max's mom, and she panics, which I think any of us would. So she bolts and they don't see each other for another year until they meet up again at a party of some mutual friends again. And this way, and at this point in time, they're now thrown together in multiple ways. Marnie is still really attracted to Max. Max is still really attracted to Marnie. But she slept with his dad. So I absolutely loved it. I'm a huge Lauren Rowe fan, but this book is so good and it definitely deserves more hype.
Could you imagine being in a relationship where you could say, well, that's not how your dad does it?
All right, BJ Alpha.
Oh, I love BJ. Oh, Becky.
I know, but that just like that seems like a line that would be in one of her books.
It could be. She's got a new one coming out soon. You never know. So,
Daddy's Possession. She keeps teasing it,
yes,
but I haven't actually seen a specific date yet.
I get the arc for it here in a few days. Next week, I think. It's coming. It's coming.
Have you read Daddy's Addiction yet?
This week.
Okay.
I was waiting for audio because I knew audio was coming out soon, and I was hoping that would be out before the new book, but I don't think so. So.
It's not that long.
No, it's not, huh?
It's a good book. I actually thought about putting it in this video.
Good.
But there you go. Bonus book. Daddy's Addiction.
Anything by BJ. Yeah. Okay. My next book I read last year, and it was like one of my top reads of the year, but it doesn't have a lot of ratings, and so it just needs more love, like all these books. So we're going to talk about Take Me With You by Nina G. Jones, and I've got to switch myself over while holding a book open while holding a book in my hand. This is interesting.
And trying to keep the reflection off of it.
While trying to keep the reflection off of it. Okay, so Take Me With You by Nina G. Jones takes place in 1978, and this is about a young girl named Vespa. And Vesper is, well, it starts off with Sam. Sam's a little cuckoo, and he's kind of like a peeping Tom, but on a whole nother level. So he watches people through their windows, and then it escalates. He'll eventually break into their home, and he ties the guy up. He's always does this with couples. He'll tie the guy up, and then he assaults the woman while the guy's there watching, and then he leaves. And that's it for that relationship, or that's it for that situation. But he sees Vesper and he watches her for a while, and he is just enamored with her because of the way she treats her younger sibling who has some I can't remember if he was autistic or no, he had some kind of disability that it wasn't autism, it was something else that and the way she treats this child is what eventually like originally attracts him to her. On the night he breaks in, her parents are gone, her brother's asleep, and she's there with her boyfriend. And when he breaks in, he ties the boyfriend up and he goes to do what he normally does. When the brother wakes up and things go south very quickly, where she tells him, just take me with you, because she knows that she's not getting away from this guy and she doesn't want him to hurt her younger brother or the boyfriend. And this starts a situation where he takes her with him and he holds her captive for quite a long time in a shed in the back of the house. I love it so much. I mean, there's something to be said about Stockholm syndrome. Just saying. And because it's in the 70s. In fiction, people. Yes.
Always.
There's something always. In the 70s, you didn't have the technology like we do now. So it's, it is a different time, a different situation. So
yeah. I love reading books from like back in the day.
Well, like when we talked about with Beth's book, 9 Minutes, that wouldn't have been able to happen, the scenarios, if it took place in today's time. So, yeah. So anyhow, there's that one. Okay, what else you got for me?
Okay, so my next book is Lost Soul by Emma Creed. You've also read this one. Mm-hmm. This book is fantastic, especially if you like MC, if you like a little angst or a lot of angst, if you like to cry or really cry, definitely go with this book. So we have Jesse and Haley, and Haley her dad is the MC president, but her mom and her live like, I almost say off campus, but out away from the clubhouse and the club life. And her dad just kind of, I got the feeling like he just kind of swings by when he feels like it. Like he definitely cares for his daughter, but he's not overly present, I guess. And Jesse ends up coming to live with them. And he is when they're teenagers, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I can't remember exactly how old he is. And she kind of develops a crush on him. And so they're kind of raised as step siblings, but they're not step siblings either. If that makes sense. But they become friends and she like has a big crush on him. And then as she gets older, she starts to try and get involved more and be around the MC more. And she really wants Jesse. And I'm not going to tell you, there's nothing more to say. You have to read the rest of the story going in blind. So there you have it. Read this. It's very good, but it's also very emotional.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. It was so good. Oh, man.
So if you are one of those people looking for an angsty book, emotional book, go for it.
That one will do it. That does it right there. Yeah.
It does.
Yeah. Okay, so normally this is where we cut it off.
Wait, hold on. Wait. And if it makes you really mad, Jessica read it first.
Oh, it's my fault. Okay, now that we've covered that. Okay, so normally this is where we cut it off. But because this is books that need more hype, and our list was so long, and we had such a hard time, you guys are getting bonus recs.
Yes, because this morning when we were getting ready to do this, I was going through my list. I actually had gone through all the Goodreads. Then I went to Amazon, and then I went to authors' Instagrams because I was trying to figure out how I was going to pare my list down. And I'm like, that's it. I'm just going to do 6 and Jessica's going to be happy with it. I literally set my book down and my phone has an incoming text at the same time that I'm just like done. I pick it up and it's Jessica texting me saying, hey, what do you think if we just do 6? And I'm like, oh my gosh, exactly what I was thinking. And I already have my list, so I'm ready to get started on another one of these videos here coming up soon.
I love how she's just like, well, I'm just going to do 6 and Jessica's going to deal with it. Instead of saying, hey, do you want to pick a 6th? Yeah. It's okay. So let's
Well,
do.
that was how the conversation went in my mind. We hadn't had it yet. I could have changed how I was going to say things.
You could have. Yeah, you could. You would have called me and you would have been, now don't be mad, but I have an idea. That's how she starts all of them. Like, I'm going to be angry.
Well, because sometimes you.
Well, the other time you call and you're like, what's your mood like before you even start? Yeah. How angry are you today? Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's do it. Let's do our bonus recs. So the first one that I have is one that I read the beginning of this year. I think it's going to be in it's going to be in my top reads for the year. I know that. And it's probably going to be in maybe even all-time faves because I really, really like it. So that is the Spark of Madness. Well, this is the Amber Glen trilogy, but the first book is Spark of Madness by Bryn Ford. You know, these lights are a pain in the patukas. So anyhow, this one, oh, I love this so much. It has like 500 ratings and that's it. So it needs more love. So this is about mercy. So this is like a dystopian future, like post-apocalyptic almost kind of setting where it's in the future. These people all live in this compound. And it is set in a cult-like setting. And so you have Mercy, who is, she's kind of like, what they call them? She's a servant. So in this world, women are either servants or they're domestics in this little cult they have here. And she is a servant. And so on the nights, on the full moon, on one night a month, they have a purge. And that is where all the men, married or not, get to do whatever they want to these servant women, and they have to just take it, basically. If they run or if they do anything, then they have committed a crime against the community, and there has to be a punishment. Well, there's a really sadistic jerk in this book, and he does something horrible that Mercy sees, and he's coming for her, and she turns around and she runs. And that gets her in trouble. So then she is put through these 3 trials that nobody has ever survived. So the men in the group put her through these 3 trials. And that is where Arlo comes into play. So Arlo is one of the 7 guys on the council that run the community. They're actually just under this group of 3 elders that are no longer in the community. They communicate in a different way. But these guys are the ones that run it. And that is where she meets Arlo. That is where, I mean, she's met him before, but that is where Arlo comes into play in this situation. I don't even know how to explain the book any more than what I already have. Like, it's just, I don't want to give anything away, but their relationship, this book is filled with so much angst. And you're just like, how is she going to get out of this? How is he going to save her? Or how is she going to save herself? Like, how is she going to get around this? I loved it so much, because it gives you those feels like that. There's just no answers. Like, how do you make this better situation? Plus, you also want to know what's going on. Why is the group like this? What's happening here? What's going on? So, lots of questions. All right.
Okay. So my bonus book is Unbreakable by Emma Scott. Emma Scott is a little more popular of an author, and some of her books have a lot of ratings. This one is under 3,000, and I don't understand why, because it's a favorite.
Okay.
So let me tell you about it. So we have Alex, who is very wealthy, and she's had kind of what would seem like a perfect life. She's engaged to another, she's a lawyer. She's engaged to another lawyer. She's starting to plan her wedding, and she's just kind of going through the motions. They've decided they don't want to have kids. They're just very career focused. And then we have Corey. He's kind of he would be described more as a blue collar worker. He works in construction. He is trying to maintain custody of his daughter. And so he is at the bank trying to deposit something so that his rent he can pay rent. So he's trying to make this deposit to pay rent. Alex is at the bank at the same time. They're kind of standing in line next to each other when the bank is robbed, and they are held hostage together during this for several days. So they're stuck in this room together where they're being held, and they form a bond because this is a pretty traumatic experience to go through. Like, they don't know what's going to happen, and it's literally days that they're stuck here. Well, finally, The police are able to resolve the situation. Corey ends up getting hurt, so he goes to the hospital. And Alex is just really kind of struggling because Corey ends up doing some things that really help her and basically save her during this whole ordeal. So she goes to the hospital to visit him, where she learns about the struggles he's having with trying to make sure he can keep custody of his daughter and that sort of stuff. And she wants to help him because of how much he helped her. But she's still planning her wedding to her fiance during this time while she's now wrestling with all of her feelings that she has towards Corey. This book was fantastic, hands down. Absolutely loved it. I highly recommend it. It does not have enough love over there on Goodreads. So do yourself a favor and grab it.
Okay. So there you have it, folks. There's 12 books that need so much more love. They deserve more love. So
They do.
I'm sorry to add to your TBR, but I am not sorry to add to your TBR. So
yes,
read them. Yeah.
Go do it.
Go do it.
Make sure you check back on Mondays and Thursdays and Saturdays for new videos from us, and leave us a comment and make sure you hit that subscribe button.
Yeah, definitely. If you know of an underhyped book, like Mandy said before, stick it in the comments below. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next video.